Hello, welcome to this live stream. Today it will be a product update focusing on component level permissions in Crystallize. My name is Bård and I have Vasil with me, which is lead frontend at Crystallize.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm really happy to join board today for this live stream.
And before we get started, we were discussing before we started this stream in terms of, okay, why do we actually want to have permissions? And I usually compare it to an office, right? You have people arriving at the office, and there's like maybe there's screens and there's furniture and all sorts of things. But people don't start throwing things around and throwing furniture out the window, things like this. So the main thing is, yes, you need a key to the door, right, to get in, which is the authentication, the user access. But how I see it, the goal of the roles and permissions is really to limit the chances of making mistakes and optimize the workflow. For example, if you're importing products from an ERP, maybe you import a SKU and some master data. Maybe you want to make that field not editable by the editor so that you don't change anything and make a mistake, things like this. So we'll dive into that today, all the nitty gritty. We will look at a couple of different concerns here, different scenarios, and I know Vasil has prepared some cool ones.
Yeah. So maybe kind of to share a few words also about on the roles and permissions. So what you said here is like really important that we guide the user and give the user just a chance for like to eliminate the mistake, right? But also kind of to improve the user experience. That's what the roles and permissions can be used, for example. And here, for example, I have a product that is in Crystallize, and this is just one of the variants over there. And one of the examples here, as you can see, we defined 4 different price variants here at the bottom. But the user actually who is working may be just responsible for, let's say, for the European prices, right? And the prices that are coming, like the USA prices, they may be something that the user should not be able to change or should not allowed to see. So kind of removing these parts from the UI is actually where roles and permissions can really also help to achieve this kind of to eliminate the chances for errors and improve the user experience. Another example here is also when we have an item in many different languages. For example, this item here, as you can see, is in English and Norwegian. Also, it happens quite often that just some people can edit the content in one of the languages, right? Because we want proficient people to work with the item in different languages. So also kind of disabling the editing for a different language is something that we can do with roles and permissions, and thus kind of reduce the chances for error. And a third one that I have in mind, and you, Bort, also mentioned, is about, for example, editing SKUs. We know that this is something very sensitive, and most front ends, kind of front stores, right? They are built on top of the SKUs because they are unique and they rely that they will not change. So we don't want actually content editor people, for example, to go and change them because it's easy or because they thought it's something that will not affect anything.
Yeah.
And this is one of the places also where actually roles and permissions can shine a lot.
Yeah. No, this is a good point, and to me, the biggest benefit is really if you look at editorial efficiency. So you can make a more tailored or personalized user interface for editors, where you, for example, let's say you're an SEO editor, so you work with OG share tags, title, description, things like this. Maybe you don't care about the other content that another editor, the storytelling, has created. So then you can move those fields up, for example, then you can hide the others. So you can have much more streamlined user interfaces. So looking forward to seeing what we have in store for that, Vasil.
Yeah. Cool. So before really diving into roles and permissions, maybe I can share a few words about the roles and permission system that we implemented in Crystallize. So the roles in permission system, kind of the permission system in Crystallize is row based, right? So we need to create a row, then assign the permissions. And once we have the row created with the permissions we want, we can just invite people to our tenants, which will then they will have the row and the permissions, the one that we set. So as part of the roles and permissions release that we did, we also introduced a few different concepts. For example, conditional access, which I'll kind of share again a little bit more. But the idea is that with the conditional access, we can specify certain conditions, which will apply on the API and the UI, and then we can kind of give just access to a specific part of the platform to the user. The thing that's kind of I'll be covering a little bit more today is about the components and attributes permissions, which are UI related, where we can really adjust and kind of make the UI exactly the way that it's kind of makes the most sense for the people who have the role, and just show them the content that actually they need to see and work with. Cool. So maybe to set the scene here, what I have on my screen is the UI that we have for creating a role. And as you can see, our main point here was really to move away from this kind of mainstream standard checkboxy way of creating roles, right? With a lot of different checkboxes for permissions, read, write, create, and that's very unpleasant, I would say, thing to look at. We kind of focus on creating the system which is more close to the games, right? Where you have different skills, and then you can assign those skills to the user. So that's how we are looking at it.
It's a gamified permission system, and like what do you call it in gaming? Is it a skill tree or
skill tree? Exactly. Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, so over here, I'm about to create a row really. With the row is e-commerce manager, as you can see the title says here. And already I kind of gave the user some permissions. We will focus on the catalog, where we look at kind of reading and updating different items. But you can see here that also the user already has some additional permissions. And that's mainly because the catalog or the items in the catalog, they're composed of many different smaller pieces. For example, each item is built on top of a shape. So the shape is really a requirement in order to see the item. Or the language, for example, where each item saves the content in different languages. So there are some requirements, and that's are kind of the pre-selected fields that you see on my screen. Cool. So let me create this row. As you can see here, we created the e-commerce manager. And here on my second browser, I have a different user. So I have one user which will play the tenant admin for this tenant. And then I have a second user which currently doesn't have access to my tenant, right? But the idea is that I will manage the row from this browser, and then I will see the result in the other browser. Cool. As I said here, we need to invite the user. So I'll go to users, invite new user. And from the drop down here, I will select my e-commerce manager. And then I will generate one invite link. This is the link that is generated for me, so I'll just copy it. So this is really the easiest way that you can bring new people to your tenant with a specific role from start. Cool, I copy the tenant, so I go back, and then in a different browser, I'll just open the link. And as you can see, actually, so we're both on the same tenant now. Cool.
And this happened automatically because you were already logged in with that user, so you had the Crystallize account, right? Yeah.
Yes. So I was logged in. I would just open a different tab where I was immediately able to join the tenant with the roles that and the permissions that I have set.
Yep.
Cool. So maybe the first thing that you can think of it here, right, is that you see that the e-commerce manager actually has access to all different parts of our e-commerce shop. like vouchers and front page and things that really they are not concerned for this type of a user, this type of a role. So what we can do here, I'll go back and I see that I'm already part of this tenant. So what we can do here, I will go back to the e-commerce manager, and then we can work with the conditional access to the items. So over here, I go to the tree, the catalog, right? And here at the bottom, we have the conditional access. So I'm going to add the conditional access that will will allow this user to only see the, let's say, the shop folder, right, where are our products, and the rest is not something that is interesting for the user. Let me do that. Okay, so here on the catalog, I select and then I drag and drop the shop folder, and I create the condition.
Nice.
And then I will update. So now when I go back, you see that immediately here the icon is the first indication that says this is a restricted, permission restricted catalog, right? So we see just a small subset of the catalog that we are allowed to see. And this is the shop folder. Just want to say here also that the conditional access is really important thing to mention here, that it affects both the API and the UI. So when you set conditional access, you know that if you are API user, then the same set of rules will be applied. So this applies on both sides. Cool. Okay, so let's look at the shop folder, what you have, for example, and then the item that I showed you earlier. Right, so kind of the first thing to notice, and I was kind of giving this example, right, that this user has also access to the same item in Norwegian language, and I actually can go and edit it, even though I don't know Norwegian. I still can do that, which is probably bad. So what we can do here, we can add a conditional access for update, and then we can say that this user should be allowed to update only in English language. So here on the update permission, I'll go and edit, and on the language, I say English. So I'll edit and then update. So now when I go back and I go to the Norwegian language, what you see that is actually now everything is just disabled for me because I don't have actually permission to edit in this language.
And this is actually useful if we would have done it the other way around. Let's say you're going to translate to Norwegian from English, but not changing the source language, right? So it's very useful in a translation kind of scenario.
Yeah, where you have it like one window with the Norwegian, where you can just see the content, and then on the other side you can edit it and translate it. Yeah. That's definitely a thing. Cool. So if you look at a little bit more on this item, right, and this is where actually I will start talk about the component conditions or component permissions. For example, this item has a lot of components.
And the components here is what you have here with the properties, the story, the title, dimensions, relations.
Yeah, many different parts. And again, this is something that maybe user with the role of e-commerce manager, it's not something that they will be interested to see, or it's something that they will be kind of working with. So why not just we kind of remove it from for the user, right? So how we can do that? If I go back. So now, since we talk about components on items, actually, as I said, each item is built on top of a shape, and the shape defines the components, right? To modify the components permissions, we actually need to go to the shape, because this is really the foundation of each item. And over here, this is actually the new thing that we just recently added, the UI preferences. So again, the important bit here is to mention that this affects only the UI. It doesn't affect the API, right? So that means that if you are making these requests with the API, you will be able to get the data. But when you are going through the API, through the UI, like where the e-commerce manager will be working, they will get just what you said here.
So it's a personalized UI, and you can have many different personalization for different roles.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, so the item that I'm looking at, it's from with the shape product over here, as you can see. And over here, I have the product shape, so I'll click on it. And what you get to see here is actually all the components that the shape has defined with some additional fields that I'll talk about later. But let's look at the components here at the top. So the e-commerce manager will be interested in looking at the title, description, and story, let's say, but they don't want to see the properties, they don't see the dimensions. Related items, maybe it's something that they just want to be able to see but not modify. So I will just go and lock it here, right? I will say that they should not be able to edit it, but they should be able to see it. And I'll just remove the downloads and meta. So when I update this and I go back to my user, what you see here is that now we have title, description, story. And the next thing that you get is just the related items. And the related items are disabled, actually. So you're not able to do anything here because the component level permission that we set for this is just read, view and read without edit. Yeah. Or maybe, what about if they want the story to be actually the first component on the top because this is the one that they use the most? So I can go back and then I will just grab the story from here and drag it to the top. And then I update. So when I go back, you see that actually the story component becomes first immediately on the top. So this can be really
nice.
the role.
Pretty nice feature.
Yeah. Okay, let's take it a little bit further. So for example, here we have a variant, and as you see, currently I can edit the variant name, the SKU, everything around attributes. So what we can do here to actually disable that or hide it if possible, right? So here we have the product and the variant for this shape. And if I click on the variant, again, I see all the components, but then I see also these additional attributes and properties that I can disable editing, for example. So I can say that I don't want to edit the variant name SKU. Maybe it doesn't matter. Let's say the attributes, I want to lock them as well, so I don't, so the user won't be able to edit them. So I'll click this.
And the use case here is very often that this is from an import, right? So it's the
Yes.
only API updates. So it's super nice to be able to lock it down so you don't make a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Because for example, now I cannot edit the SKU, I cannot edit the name, and I can just look at the attributes. Yeah. Or even you can hide them completely, say that I don't want to see the attributes, and they will be just gone.
Nice.
So this really allows to tailor the UI to the preferences of the role that you are setting. Maybe one thing that I want to show also is about price variants, kind of what I was talking about earlier. And as you can see here, we have 4 different price variants. But actually, the user is going to manage just the European price, the European market, right? So we want to see just the European here prices. So what we can do about it, if we go back now to the shapes, the price variants, as you can see here, it's its own resource, right? So we can click on it, and again we have the UI preferences. So what we can do from here, kind of the same as we did earlier, we can disable editing on the USA prices, for example. So when I go back, you see these 2 are immediately disabled. But even I can take it further, and I can say I don't want to see them, and I want the sales actually to be first. So when I update, and the 2 price variants are gone, and I see just the European sales price that this user is supposed to work with. Right? This is really, really powerful. Yeah, maybe one last thing that I want to show around this is with creating new items. So if I go to create a product, for example, you see currently I have two shapes that I can choose from. But let's say that the user that we are defining here is really allowed to work only with the product shape. So what we can do in this case, I'll go back here, I go to shapes, UI preferences, and I see a list of all the shapes over here. So what I can do, I can move the product to be first, and I even can hide like everything else if I want. So when I update, you see that I get only the product shape. Or if I want to show also the gift card, I can show it, and it's going to be there. And then we can change order, allow really the perfect customization for working with.
Yeah, that's nice, because you might have content editors that are running, I don't know, a blog on your web shop, and then you have product editors that are making changes to the actual products. Others maybe just working with landing pages and reading and doing campaigns on products. So you can really optimize the type of content that you're working with. So this is pretty nice, Vasil.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful.
Yeah, that's a lot. So it's my takeaway is it's really powerful, but it's also so easy to work with. It's really easy to set up these roles, and you created a pretty specific both access control and user interface for this role in a few minutes. So that's nice. Of course, you can also create this via the API for those that are on the more nerdy part here. Of course, we can do that. But to me, it's kind of a couple of takeaways. So when you have a master data in another system, like an ERP, you can lock down those fields like the SKU, maybe the retail price, maybe even the name, and make them visible or not visible, but not editable. And also this market specific, where you can lock down language and prices for a given role. That's really powerful. It could be because it's secret between the regions what the prices are. They can probably go to the website if it's a public store, but might be reasons. But more specifically, it's to focus on what you're working on, right? And the part that I actually like the most is this reorganization of components. That I can have a different user interface when I work on a product than you have, because we focus on different parts of the components, like an SEO editor that just works on those meta fields as we mentioned in the beginning. So it's a powerful yet easy to use system there. If you have any questions or comments, join our Slack channel. You will reach Vasil, myself, and the rest of the team there for discussions. You can, of course, test out this by just clicking around in a Crystallize tenant. You can sign up there. It's done in a couple of clicks. Then you have your own tenant. Next week, we will be back with another live stream. But until then, have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.